All right, welcome back. All right, let's continue. So this part G, where it says verify the zeros of the polynomial h of x, right, by factoring. So you can try, but this is going to be a very difficult polynomial to factor. So let's see why is it difficult to factor. If I have negative 3x to the fourth plus 21x cubed minus 48x squared plus 36x, and I say equal it to 0, and I say, hey, what are the zeros of this polynomial? If we look at our graph, we know the zeros are going to be 0, 2, and 3, right? But we did this because we had the calculator. How could you do it by hand, right? So if I wanted to factor this polynomial, let's take a look. Here, let me just organize this real quick. Okay, so here, what we're going to do is, if possible, factor out the GCF. And what's the GCF here? It would be negative 3x. Okay, I'm going to factor out negative 3x. So if I factor out negative 3x, this becomes x cubed plus, minus 7x squared plus 16x minus 12. Okay, equals 0. So let's just check that again real quick, right? This divided by negative 3, this works. 21 divided by negative 3 is negative 7. X cubed, x squared. Negative, negative, positive. 48 and 3 is 16. X squared, x is x. 36, good, good. Okay, so it works. Now, we need to factor this guy. And notice that we have to do factor by grouping. Factor by grouping. And this is, let's see if it works. If I have, let's write it again. If I have negative 3x, and then I have x cubed minus 7x squared, right? So this is my first group. And then I'm going to have 16x minus 12, and that's my next group. Well, let's see. What's the GCF of this group? Well, it's going to be, here we do this, we do this. This is going to be x squared. So this is going to be x minus 7. And then hopefully we get an x minus 7 here. And if I factor out the GCF here, it looks like it's just a positive 4, but then this becomes 4x minus 3. And notice that we don't have the same common binomial, and we can't continue. But we know, and even if you try and rearrange the terms, it won't work. But we know that the zeros are, where are my zeros? They're right here. These are the 3 zeros. One thing you have to notice is, if you know 3 is a 0, then you know x minus 3 equals 0, right? If I do minus 3, minus 3. So I know x minus 3 is a factor of h of x. So if I know x minus 3 is a factor of this guy, it's a factor of this, I can take this x cubed minus 7x squared plus 16x minus 12, I could divide it by x minus 3. And then hopefully I'll get something that will be nicer to factor. So what I want you to do is, I want you to divide this polynomial by that. And if you're thinking, Mr. G, oh my God, I haven't divided polynomials in a long time. Okay, let's do it together. How many times does x go into x cubed? It's x squared. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times this is minus 3x squared. Parentheses, parentheses, subtract. This cancels. Negative times negative, this becomes positive. Negative 7 plus 3x squared is 4x squared. How many times does x go into 4x squared? It goes in 4x times. 4x times this is 4x squared. Oh no, sorry, bring down the 16x. This is 4x squared. 4x, this is minus 12x. Minus parentheses, this cancels. This becomes minus times minus, this becomes, this minus times this minus becomes plus. So this is 28x minus 12. And how many times does this go in? It goes in 28. Oh, did I make a mistake here? This shouldn't be it. Hold on, let me pause the video real quick. 4x. And then from here, negative 4x times x is negative 4x squared. And then negative 4x, this should be a plus 12. This should be a plus 12x. But when you do negative times positive, this will be negative. So it's 16 minus 12, and that's 4x minus 12. And then how many times does x go into 4x? That's plus 4 times. And then you get 4x minus 12, and this is, notice at the very end, you get 0. So going back to this, that if you know that this is true, then what happens is you get this. You get negative 3x, right, times x minus 3 times x squared minus 4x plus 4. And that equals 0. Okay? And now from here, you could factor this. So you get negative 3x, x minus 3. What two numbers when you multiply give you 4, but when you add give you negative 4? This is x minus 2, x minus 2, and that equals 0. And then from here, we get x minus 3 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0, and negative 3x equals 0. So then from here, we know x is equal to 0, x is equal to 3, x is equal to 2. And notice that these are the 3 zeros that we originally got over here. But we just did it algebraically. And that was very difficult to do, because here you had to realize that x minus 3 is a factor, and then you had to do that. And we never really did a problem like that, but it wasn't impossible. Okay? Now for here, let's look at this part, and we're almost done. Here, it's saying during which interval, during which domain of x is the height of the roller coaster increasing? So here, when we look at this problem, we need to examine the fact, when is the height of the roller coaster increasing? Well, the height is increasing from here to here, and it's also increasing from here to here. Like if I were to say, when is the roller coaster increasing? It's from here to here. But what we need to do is, the domain is basically saying which values of x show that this function is increasing. So x for this here, notice that if this is 0.5, when x is between 0 and 0.5, it's going up. So when x is between 0.5 and 0, x is increasing. X is increasing. And then what's the y value? What's the range that shows? Let's fix this here. Okay. What's the y value that corresponds? Well, let's see. Y, you see, here we're talking about the height. You see, when x is 0, my y is 0. So here, what's the height? It's increasing from 0 to 8.5, right? And then what about the next one? What I want you to do is try and figure it out from here. You see, x is going to be from 2 to, well, let's see, at what point does this point here, we need to find the relative maximum for this one, okay? So here, notice that that maximum, when we did it, it's 2.6, okay? So then here, this is 2.6 comma 1.1. That's this point here. And now here, I know that from 2, between 2 and 2.6, my x is increasing. And my y value will go from 0 to 1.1. Okay? This, I hope, I don't know. I really hope this was okay for you. Like sometimes I could tell maybe some of you, if you're watching this, you might be feeling a little shaky with this, but I just want you to push through it, okay? This will get better eventually, all right? Here, when is the roller coaster decreasing? Well, the roller coaster is decreasing from here to here and here to here, right? So what is the domain for which the interval for the roller coaster decreasing? Well, it's between 0.5 and 2. So x has to be between 0.5 and 2, x is decreasing. And here, it's also decreasing between 2.6 and 3. So x has to be between 2.6 and 3, and x is decreasing. Okay? And what is the respective y value? Well, the y value is going from 0 to 1.1. So here, this is y is 1.1. And then from here, oh, I'm sorry, no. It's going from 0.5, I'm sorry, my bad. This should be 0.5 to 2, right? 0.5 to 2. It goes from 8.5 to 0. So this is here, this is 8.5 and 0, and y is between that. And for this one, it's going to be between, you see, look at the pink. Here, it decreases from 1.1 to 0. So 1.1 to 0. And this is what we call a range, and this is what we call the domain. And the bell says that we are done for this lesson. Hopefully that helped. See you.